All right, I want to thank everybody for coming. This is our last Steps of the Dram for the year. We really appreciate all the support you guys have given us coming to our Depths of the Dram. Today we have CDH brands. This is Naomi.
Ayala. A yaw between two us.
Manager, and then, of course, we have Master Blender, Julieann Fernandez. So we'll let these guys take over. Enjoy the evening and have fun.
Yeah.
Be safe.
So, I'm from Texas. She is not. You'll catch on to that pretty quickly when you start to tell everybody about our whiskeys. So, CVH, we own Bunnahabhain, Deanston, Tobermory, and Ledaig single malts. So these three wonderful distilleries, we make 4 fantastic brands. I was telling Julieann about this group and how in Texas we have these wonderful groups of connoisseurs and collectors. And so I just kind of want to take a poll in the room. Who's been to Scotland to visit distilleries? Who's been to Islay? Who's been to Bunnahabhain? Yeah? Okay, cool. So we have some wonderful folks that actually know their Scotch. My other favorite thing to ask before we get going is, let's see who has the most whiskey in the room. So who has 10 bottles of whiskey at their house? 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Let's jump up to 75, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 500, 500 bottles. Who has 750 bottles of whiskey at their house? All right, me and you. Who has 750 bottles at their house? You're around 700? All right. Todd? 900? 1,000? Okay. Just so we know who actually is obsessed. So this is fun. So y'all, we are going to start with our fantastic Highland whiskey, and I'm going to pass it over to Julieann to tell us about the distillery's history, and the really cool selections that we have tonight. That one of them isn't even in the U.S. yet, and the other one isn't really sold in stores. It will be soon. So Julieann, take it away on Deanston.
Thank you. So, yeah, as Naomi said, I am quite clearly not from Texas. If you struggle with the Scottish accent, please do let me know. There's only so much slowing down of the talking I can do before I end up going backwards. There's a point where it becomes a you problem, not a me problem, but I will try and make you understand what I'm saying. It does get easier the more the drams go down. So yeah, we're going to start on Deanston Distillery. So Deanston Distillery is a Highland distillery. It sits right at the foot of the Highlands in this tiny little town called Deanston, just outside the village Doon. It's about 20 minutes from Stirling. That makes us sort of 40 minutes from Glasgow, 40 minutes from Edinburgh. Deanston has a lot of history and heritage, but only when it comes to being a cotton mill. So it dates all the way back to the 1700s. It was a cotton mill. When the cotton industry was booming, we employed over 1,500 people. We had our own grocery stores there. We had schools. It really was the heart of the community. So much so that we had our own coin at the mill where we paid our workers. So this coin was called the Deanstonian. You'll see it on the top of our bottles. And that's basically how they paid their workers that worked in the mill. And they used that to buy groceries and whatever else that they needed. There was then a decline in the cotton industry, and that's when our founder, Brodie Hepburn, he saw an opportunity there to change Deanston Mill into Deanston Distillery. So in 1965, he converted the mill to a distillery, and in 1966, that's when we started producing whisky. So when we talk about the age of these distilleries, 1965, like this is the baby of the group. Mm-hmm. Bunnahabhain was established in 1881. We've got Ledaig in 1798. So with Deanston being so young, it doesn't have that history and heritage that our other brands do. That means that we can be a little bit more experimental with Deanston. that all comes down to the spirit that we make at Deanston. So we'll start with where our distillery is located. As I said, right at the foot of the Highlands. We sit right at the banks of the River Teith. The River Teith is a very, very fast-flowing river. It flows over granite, so that makes it very, very soft. That is perfect for making whiskey. Another reason that the River Teith is very, very important, that fast-flowing river actually powers our distillery. So we're a hydro-powered distillery. We generate enough electricity to power our distillery, our visitor centre, our cafe, and then we sell it back to the grid. So we're a very sustainable distillery, and we have been before sustainability became a kind of buzzword. So we've always been a very sustainable distillery. We make this really unique character of new make spirit at Deanston called waxy. And I'm well aware that waxy doesn't always kind of translate over the pond. So the way that I would describe it, sort of two different ways. One way is either if you eat an orange, the way that you would eat an apple. So you imagine biting into this orange, you've got that thick, waxy orange peel, and then a burst of citrus flavour. That's sort of that Deanston waxy character. The other way to describe it is all the bees. So like the beeswax, the honey, that sort of honeycomb character. So it's not just a flavour, but it's almost like an experience where it coats your palate, it lingers. That waxy character is very important because it means that Deanston lends itself so well to so many different cask finishes. So while you are nosing and tasting our first one, which is our Deanston 8-year-old Banyos cask finish. So for anybody who doesn't know what Banyos is, it's a sort of French dessert wine, really quite sweet, and it really complements the character of Deanston. When we talk about Deanston, we think of all these light, fresh aromas, like crisp green apple. The way I tend to describe Deanston is if you're sitting in a tree, you're biting into an apple, and some days you say mowing the lawn, I say cutting the grass, because we speak the Queen's English and you don't. So some days like mowing the lawn underneath you, it's that fresh, grassy, green character. Beautifully light, beautifully fresh. And what Banyos does is it just takes that and it imparts those beautiful flavours of the Banyos casks. So that French fortified wine that's packed full of like nuts, dark chocolate, all these really rich flavours. So it really showcases a different side of Deanston. The reason that works is because that waxy character that I'm talking about. So when it comes to waxy, there's only 2 distilleries in Scotland that create a waxy whiskey, ourselves and Clynelish. The reason for that is because it's a kind of mixture between art, science, and a little bit of magic. If we knew exactly how we did it, there would be more than 2 distilleries that do it. So anybody that says to you, oh, I know how you make a waxy whiskey, no, you don't. It's as simple as that. What we do know is that there's a few precursors to that waxy whiskey. So one, we have a huge open top mash tun at Deanston. So as we're mashing in, all that grist's coming in, our waters are coming in, big open top mash tun, and we can see all of that happening. Out of the mash tun, we need this crystal clear wort. So that beautiful sugary liquid that comes out of our mash tun, it has to be crystal clear. We take that crystal clear wort, we then put it through to our fermentation vessels, and during fermentation, our fermentation times have to be long enough to promote a lot of esterification. So we're looking for these really concentrated estery flavours. We don't want to go too far that we start to hit floral, but we want those concentrated fruity flavours in our washbacks because that is a precursor for waxy. From our washbacks into our stills, Deanston has quite big stills, and at the top of the still, so that lie pipe, line arm, whatever you like to call it, it's on an incline. So we get a lot of reflux in there. We also have this kind of like quirky, different spirit receiver vessel where we've got the heads and the tails going in there. There's constantly stuff being added to it. The ABV changes. There's different layers. And marketing's nightmare, but if you open it up and you show anybody, it has this kind of like layer of black gunk on the top of it. You lift that out of there and it goes clear because that needs that alcohol-rich environment. And that all of that combined is what gives us waxy. So we make this beautiful waxy new make spirit at Deanston. Sorry, I'm jumping distilleries already, and I've not even had a dram.
Oh. So,
Deanston one.
Deanston number 1.
So we then take this beautiful liquid that we make at Deanston Distillery and we predominantly fill it into bourbon barrels. That's our kind of house style. When you weave cotton, so we used to be a cotton mill, when you weave cotton, you need a very, very steady temperature to get the best cotton. We now use that weaving shed to mature our whisky. So most of the Deanston that we make will mature at our beautiful Highland distillery in this old weaving shed with thick stone walls. So front to back, top to bottom, no matter which time of year it is, the temperature is pretty much the same. So it gives you beautiful, even maturation. What we do with all of our core range is natural colour, non-chill filtered. So everything that you see in the glass is absolutely natural. We don't add anything to this. This one is at what we call high nominated, where I've taken this whisky at cask strength and just diluted it until I found the sweet spot. For this one, I believe it's at 55.5. I could also be making that up, but no, I think we're good. 55.5.
Yeah.
There we go. 55.5, that's the sweet spot for this. So basically what I do is I take it at cask strength, I'll add a few drops of water, I'll do some tasting notes, I'll add some more, and you kind of naturally get to a point where the whiskey shines and then you start to lose it. I'll then check the ABV on what that was, and there we go, that's our nominated strength. So yeah, this is a young age statement for Deanston, so just 8 years old. That kind of 6 and 2. In Scotland, because of our climate, we really need to finish for a kind of minimum of 2 years. We don't get the beautiful hot summers that you guys get here, so we need more time for our whisky to interact with our finishing casks, which is why most of our finishes will be round about those 2 years. Keep going.
Next one, yeah.
So yes, now that you've enjoyed Deanston Banyos, just to kind of warm up the palate, what we're going on to next is a Deanston orange wine. So this is a kind of sneak peek at what's to come next year. I think you guys will get it here next spring. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like May, June, this isn't even in bottle yet. This is something that I've been working on for a few years now. For those of you who are obviously familiar with Scotch, which you are, being part of this group, we are obviously kind of governed by the HSWS and they dictate the cask types that we can use, that we can't use. The rules, they change sometimes. I always try and be ahead of the curve. So if you know Deanston, we've done a tequila cask finish. Orange wine, again, is something new. It's not something that's done a lot in the Scotch whisky industry, but it is a cask that we're allowed to use. This one is a 17-year-old Deanston. So this is a 15 plus 2, so 15 in bourbon and 2 in the orange wine casks. The reason that I wanted to use orange wine casks for Deanston is because of that character that I was talking about. So if you take that orange, you bite into it, you get the waxiness and the burst of flavour. The orange wine casks just absolutely amplify that. It's much sweeter than what I expected it to be. This beautiful sweetness there, that orange marmalade that coats the palate. This one is, I believe, something like 53.6. So yeah, again, that kind of higher ABV. I personally don't think that you can tell that proof's that little bit higher, but again, I know I am preaching to the converted here and you guys all know what you're talking about. But there is no right or wrong way to drink whiskey. So please, if you do find any of these a little bit fiery, I'm a big believer in chefs cook with their palate. Whiskey is the same. A whiskey will tell you if it's a little bit fiery, if it needs a few drops of water, that's absolutely fine. Try it neat first, let it talk to you. And if you want to open it up a little bit, that's absolutely fine. Just don't mix it with something like Iron Brew or some other horrific Scottish drink that we do.
So Deanston is probably one of my fastest new loves. And I think it's funny that we talk about Deanston in terms of 1965. It's so new in this era of Scotch where we have bourbon distilleries that are younger than that we consider, iconic already. And so, this distillery, 60 years already. There are a lot of fun releases out there. Most of you might be familiar with the 12-year, which is, aged in American casks, or the VO, the Virgin Oak, which is lovely. It's a non-age statement. Great for cocktails if you just want like a really nice old-fashioned with Scotch at home. But I think some of my favorite Deanston expressions are some of the stranger ones, like the tequila cask. What is the age on that one? Was it 15?
15.
That one is really cool. Will you tell me about, or tell us, I guess, because this isn't just us. Will you tell us about how you chose tequila and also how that's kind of a new thing for Scotch whiskey, allowing that?
Yeah, again, so SWA obviously regulates us pretty heavily, so there's so many things that we're not allowed to do. When it came to the tequila casks, I'd actually purchased them prior to the SWA changing their rules, and I'd put Deanston into it. So Deanston's a Highland distillery. It has a kind of Highland character. When you look at the regions of Scotch, that's not something that you actually can go by when it comes to flavour. So everyone goes, oh, Speyside, like they're light and fresh. Highland, they're like light and floral. There's so much more to it in terms of like terroir, the distilleries, the water source, their barley source, all of that. But Deanston's a Highland distillery, so I selected a Highland tequila because the flavours of the Highland tequila just work so much better with the Deanston than what other types of tequila do. So over here, you guys are so educated when it comes to tequila. In Scotland, you say tequila, people think of their university days where they're down in shots and they don't remember the next day. So a lot of them, you go tequila and everyone goes, oh. So what I wanted to do was something that was much more approachable, easy to drink, and using that Highland tequila, you got more of those sweet, fruity flavours, and it just went hand in hand with that beautiful character of Deanston.
I feel like you also use American casks a little bit more heavily with Deanston as well. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, it's just kind of our house style. So Deanston makes this really beautiful, light, fresh spirit. And what we want to do in our range is have a whiskey for everybody. When you say Scotch whiskey, there's people years back where their grandfathers would have drank your Lafroig's Lagavulin, so they go, oh, I don't like Scotch, but it's because they've drank something that's so heavily peated. Finishing or maturing Deanston and bourbon means that we make it very, very accessible and approachable. So especially for this market, if you've got people who drink bourbon and they're trying to make that transition from bourbon into whiskey, Deanston's perfect for that because you still have all of those characteristics of the bourbon, but obviously the flavour of Scotch like sort of overpowers that and dominates. And it's a really nice sort of entry level. When you look at our Virgin Oak's a non-age statement, average age about 6 years. So we do 5 in bourbon and then a year in those Virgin Oak. So Virgin American Oak, we char to level 4, which is alligator char. So the inside of the cask looks like alligator skin. And that really opens up those vanillins, the lactones, and it gives us this beautiful flavour of vanilla, a little bit of coconut in there. That's a really easy, approachable whiskey to start your journey on. 1, the flavour's phenomenal. 2, the price point is so good. And 3, it's so versatile that you can have it in a long drink and a cocktail. So what I try and do with this range is make a whiskey that throughout this range, there's one that you will like.
And then am I dreaming or have I seen a Deanston 18?
Yes.
So tell me about that one.
Yes. So we have, our core goes Deanston Virgin Oak, Deanston 12, Deanston 18. So 12-year-old fully matured in bourbon barrels. 18 is what I call a 16 plus 2. So you're 16 in just standard refill oak casks. And then 2 years in bourbon. And the kind of point in that is that Deanston makes this amazing new make spirit. All of our distilleries do. So having 16 years in refill casks there's still a bit of kind of like snobbery in Scotland around, refill casks. Like, why would you use them? Refill casks are phenomenal. Yeah. What they do is they let a whiskey mature. It adds a little bit to it, takes a tiny little bit away, but it lets the spirit of that distillery shine. So Deanston, when we do 16 years in refill and then just finish it for 2 years in bourbon, you get this beautiful, sweet, waxy, oily, it's just packed full of flavour. It's won so many awards. It's just an all-round amazing whiskey.
Okay, speaking of awards, real fast, let's talk about you.
Oh,
I know, I'm going to do this.
Skip this.
So y'all know that Julieann is one of the youngest master blenders in Scotch whiskey, and also first ballot keeper. So say it for me. Keeper of the
Quaich.
Quaich. I can never say it.
Quaich.
Keeper of the Quaich. So first ballot, and what, you have to be in the industry for 7 years in order to be nominated, and you had been working at Bunnahabhain for 8.
Yeah, pretty much.
When she made that team. And then also, what was it? Whiskey Advocate Blender of the Year?
Yep, so Icons of Whiskey Master Blender of the Year. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where when I started out doing this role, I honestly felt like the world was on my shoulders because we have the most amazing brands. And as Naomi said, being one of the kind of youngest master blenders there was, I was 27 when I was promoted to master blender. It was so young, it was a lot of pressure, but I'm just very, very fortunate that my manager at the time believed in me. But I think from there, it actually gave me determination to succeed. So from there, I'm like, I don't want people to doubt me and doubt my abilities. Like, I want to prove so hard to everybody that I deserve this position and that I can make whiskies that are different, unique, and absolutely quality liquids. And we will start to actually taste some of them just now.
Yes.
So we're going to start on Bunnahabhain with our... Yeah, of course.
I just want to ask before you moved on from these, I have a PX organic.
Yes.
And
Yum.
I was just curious about what makes it organic and how does that impact the operation to run an organic product?
Yeah, great question. So we're actually working just now to get the certification that we were the first distillery in Scotland to make organic whiskey. Making organic whiskey is very, very expensive. The barley's more expensive. The process, everything about it is more expensive. What we have to do is we close our distillery down for maintenance throughout the year. When we have our shutdown period, we will then strip everything down. We will clean it, and we will start back up on organic. So see that sort of spirit receiver vessel, the one more like kind of like dunk and stuff, that's the only thing that's different. We cannot put our organic whiskey through that because it's got the heads and tails and all sorts of other funky stuff going on in there. But every other part of the process is the same. So we mill it the same. We bring it into our open top mash tun. We use the same temperature of waters. Our fermentation times are similar. We distill it the same. But it has to come with a malt passport that carries it through, that it's certified organic. We get an inspection every year to keep us certified organic. And then when it comes to casks, they either need to be certified organic. So like we've got a few organic PX, organic Fino, a couple of organic Oloroso. Or we'll use either virgin oak casks or rechar casks, where we're essentially scraping back the inside of the casks, recharring it, so that essentially it becomes a new cask that's being charred, just to keep that organic certification. Getting organic casks is really, really difficult. There's not many organic sherry producers, organic rum producers, so it's very difficult to do, very expensive to do. But it's something that we love to do at the distillery because quite a lot of people look for that organic certification. And just on the subject of certification for Deanston, not the Banyos, but our Deanston Virgin Oak 12, 18, they're all kosher certified, which might not be as big in this market, but we've just been in New York. It was huge there, so we're kind of getting stickers made that we can put on because it's not on our labels. So yeah, we're very big on accreditations where we can, whether that's kosher, organic, or anything else along those lines.
Mm-hmm. And I've also tried the 14 organic. I think Total Wine has. I've purchased it at Total Wine before here. So, but Yeah, but that one might still be on shelves somewhere. But that one was fun. Are there any other Deanston expressions that you would suggest they search for if they're wanting something funky or neat?
Oh, Deanston expressions.
Yeah, anything off the wall before we jump to Buna.
Pardon? Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely, if you've not tried Deanston tequila, like that's a must.
That's the one.
It definitely changes the character of Deanston. I think if you had that in your glass and somebody said which distillery is that, you're not going to be able to say that it's Deanston. For Deanston Organic, yeah. Organic barrels. Yes.
for the organic labeled Deanston. Not all of the Deanstons, but we have Deanston organic. We have certain expressions that are organic, and then other expressions which are not organic. So the PX that he mentioned, we have an old 14.
Yeah, so you can see
So
it literally
this one says organic.
Organic, like right across that label there. If it says organic, finishing casks, barley, everything has been organic in this.
That's his.
Yeah, ask your friends here.
But yes, if you do find the tequila cask, please buy it because it is one of my favorite drams. And also it's in a beautiful, like almost like blue azul canister with a blue label. And it's a beautiful whiskey. So if you see it, I recommend picking that one up. That might be one of my favorite expressions from Deanston. So Julieann, do we know which distillery the tequila cask comes from? It was just asked.
No.
No.
So the thing is,
It goes through a broker.
yes,
Yeah.
it kind of goes through a broker. Sourcing casks is actually quite difficult in the UK. So unless we actually do a partnership where we name them on the label, as much as we know where they come from, we're not allowed to state that because that kind of breaks some of the laws for Scotch whisky.
Yeah. But we will say, so lowland tequila is always very peppery, a little bit more floral, a little bit more slate, and highland tequila is more fruity and fresh. And so I think it just works so well, like a highland tequila, a highland whiskey, those fruity
Absolutely.
notes they just marry so well. All right. Any other Deanston questions? Because we got to get to Isla. Yeah?
Okay,
Let's go on a
very
boat
good.
ride. Let's do
So
it.
yeah, we're going to head over to Isla, where we are going to go to Bunnahabhain. So I'm assuming this is Bunnahabhain number 1 on your mat.
It sure is. It's the top left corner, please.
So does anybody know what Bunnahabhain means? Yeah, there we go.
Do y'all hear?
Bunnahabhain means mouth of the river, and that refers to the River Margadale, where we get our beautiful fresh spring water. When you say Isla, people think of your Lafroigs, your Lagavulins, your Ardbegs, all these really big, hard-hitting peat monsters. What they do at their distilleries is absolutely phenomenal. They produce amazing whiskey, but that is just not what we do at Bunnahabhain. So we pride ourselves in being unpeated, Isla, sherried. That's the 3 things you need to remember about Bunnahabhain. So that mouth of the River Margadale, we get our beautiful fresh spring water, we pipe it underground so that when it comes into the distillery, there is no peat influence at all. If that just flowed into the distillery, it would flow over those peat bogs and you would get a smoky influence. We don't want that, which is why we pipe it underground. So a little bit about Deanston. Established in 1881. The only way in and out of our distillery was by boat. So we're not tasting it tonight, but we have a non-age statement called Struder. Struder means helmsman, and that's this guy here who's right on the front of every bottle. So back in the 80s, right up until 1960s, the helmsman brought everything in and out by boat. It was only in the 1960s that we actually got a road made to bring stuff in and out of Bunnahabhain. Much like the rest of our core, we are still natural colour, non-chill filtered, and this is bottled at 46.3% ABV. Bunnahabhain 12 is kind of quintessentially Bunnahabhain. It is our flagship for the brand. So the 3 things that I said, unpeated, Isla, sherried, that is what this is. It's unpeated, it's Isla, and it is sherried. So most of this is matured in first fill Oloroso casks. We mature as much as we can on the island. So we're the most northerly distillery on the island. We have the River Margadale at one side where we get our fresh water. We have a pier where our helmsman came in with all of our ingredients. And in front of us is this beautiful body of water called the Sound of Islay. That is beautiful, salty water. So no matter where you go in Bunnahabhain, whether that's in our tun room, whether it's in the still room, you get that salty sea air everywhere you go. We have warehouses so close to the water, one especially, warehouse number 4, where on a cold, wet, windy day in Scotland, which is pretty much every day, the waves come up, they crash against the side of the warehouse, and basically what that does is the hoops that go round the casks, they rust. So we spend a small fortune every year replacing the hoops on the cask. People might say, why don't you just move the casks? But that absolutely adds to the character of Bunnahabhain. Being a whisky enthusiast, you will know about the angel share. So every year we lose 2% to the drunk angels of Scotland. As that cask breathes out, it breathes in this beautiful salty sea air. So you think about that headspace in the barrel. That headspace is this beautiful salty air. It's interacting with the whiskey. And that's why you get that sea salt coming through in our expressions. So our 12 core, you get that beautiful salted caramel coming through. You get the influence of the Oloroso casks. So you get dried fruit, you get roasted nuts. Because we don't chill filter, you've still got that beautiful creamy mouthfeel. And yeah, this beautiful lingering spicy finish on this one for me.
Would you tell us about our warehouses, the dunnage style warehouses and Warehouse X?
Yes, so
Yeah.
we have dunnage style warehousing at Bunnahabhain. That's your most traditional style warehousing in the Scotch whisky industry. Just because of space and the amount of whisky that's being produced, you will see quite a few producers moving to palletised warehouse. I'm personally not a huge fan of that, just because when you palletise barrels, you don't get that same airflow. In dunnage, what I love about it is that the airflow is all around it. So when we go into warehouse 4, for example, it's not just the casks at the front or the side that have got rusty hoops, excuse the term. It is the casks right through the full warehouse that get that salty sea air influence. So we're only kind of like 2 or 3 high in our dunnage warehouses. So that very traditional dunnage maturation warehouse. We did just build another warehouse at Bunnahabhain. Like I say, with our coastal location, we're very fortunate that we have a lot of space there. Inland distilleries don't have that luxury, but we do because of where we are. Bunnahabhain, dating back to 1881, it really was a community there. On a Sunday, the ladies used to go out by boat from the pier into the main town of Bowmore to do like some shopping and things like that. But other than that, everything happened in Bunnahabhain. So we had the school was there, everyone that worked there lived there. So proper kind of community there. But obviously some of those cottages like we don't use anymore, so we've knocked them down and we've built more warehouses, and we've just built a brand new warehouse, Warehouse X we call it, and it's even closer to the water than Warehouse 4 is. So that just shows you how committed we are to that coastal influence and how much it means for us to mature our whiskey on the island.
So the next one that we're tasting, we're having, oh, go ahead.
Okay, so with the 12 year, do you try to limit the amount of whether it's annual or batch variation year to year, or do you kind of embrace change over time, or different batches, or different? Do you try to keep it to a standard?
No, great question. For 12 core, it's all about consistency. So that's a really good question. 12 core is made of first fill Oloroso, second fill Oloroso, a little bit of bourbon. You don't notice it so much with Bunnahabhain because it's in dark glass, but everything I do is organoleptic, so it's all by nose and by taste. I use blue glasses, red lights, so I don't look at the colour of anything that I'm doing. Batch to batch, you will, if these were in clear bottles, you would notice that there will be variation on colour. Casks are absolutely natural. Just because one's darker than the other doesn't mean that the character's different. So that's why I don't take the colour into account. When it comes to 12 core, absolutely, every batch needs to be consistent. We work to a standard, but that's where 12 cask strength comes in. where we embrace these differences.
Just a corollary, very quick question. Did you attempt to match it to a standard before you took over, like a historical standard for the 12, or it was like, I'm going to put my mark on it, I'm going to make changes with this or this or this? Or...
Yeah, that is a good question. To an extent, you always want to honour the kind of history and heritage of the brands that you're looking after. But at the same time, when you're fresh into something, you've got your own ideas, your own opinions. And for me, Bunnahabhain works beautifully in Oloroso sherry. It really does. They go hand in hand. It gives it this beautiful nuttiness. Bunnahabhain is also not a one-trick pony, so it doesn't need to be overpowered with Oloroso. So I did ever so slightly tweak the recipe to just let that character of Bunnahabhain shine. Our distillery manager at Bunnahabhain, a gentleman called Andrew Brown, is now celebrating 37 years service at Bunnahabhain. So this man, he's Mr. Bunnahabhain. There's nothing this man doesn't know. He knows the distillery in and out. He doesn't even need to know what they're doing. He'll walk in and he'll be like, there's a change in smell in here. Something's not right. He's fantastic. He produces the most consistent quality new make spirit that I've ever known from any distillery, and I'm very big on letting that character shine, which is why I did reduce slightly the percentage of Oloroso, but just to let the character of Bunnahabhain shine a little bit more. Probably not that a lot of people would have noticed, but maybe somebody like yourself has maybe picked up on those differences.
I wanted to ask respectfully.
Go ahead, please.
PX in the 12?
No.
So I've heard of some small, maybe octaves that you have with PX that you'll just splash a little in some blends.
Yeah, we do. So we've got a few octaves. We've got firkins. The issue with the firkins is when you put the Bunnahabhain into it, like you say, they react very, very quickly. So it becomes almost like plum jam. It's very thick, it's syrupy. So yeah, there's times where it's not in the recipe. If a batch maybe isn't sweet enough or it's lacking something, I'd say more our higher age statements, we'll maybe put a little splash of that PX in there.
Is there a point where a batch just is not meeting up to your standards and you have to get rid of it?
No, I'm too good at my job for that. No, you're right. So what I actually do is, back years ago, not so much with our 12, but as we start to hit like 1825 and things like that, cask education wasn't a big thing across the whiskey industry, not just with ourselves. And people were buying casks that they just didn't know all that much about. They didn't understand sherry casks. They didn't understand sulphur. They didn't understand having sherry in it to like keep it wet when you were transporting it in the summer. There was just a lot of things that people didn't know. So casks were bought, whiskey was filled into it, and the casks might have been a little bit sour. So 12-year-olds not really a problem because we can chase our casks back quite easily. But 1825 and above, every cask that we bring in for these batches, we nose everyone individually to prevent that from happening. So we have a wonderful team at our head office in East Kilbride where we bottle all of our products. So they nose 2 different types of casks. Our empty casks coming in for filling, they'll nose them and they won't fill it if they're not happy. And ones that come in, if they think there's anything off, they phone me, I'll go and look at it, and it's as simple as going around with a bit of chalk. I'll nose every single cask. If I don't like it, it gets a white cross on it and it sits to the side, and we kind of deal with that later when we decide what we're going to do with it. Because even one cask, I am very, very sensitive to sulphur. I know some people like a bit of sulphur in whiskey, and that is absolutely fine. I personally don't. And because of the job I do, I get to dictate how much sulphur is in these products, and it's 0 because I don't like it. So you're not getting that in it. Oh, I was like, what sulphur story? Yeah. So people say, oh, you must have a really good nose and sensitive to smells and things like that. And most of the time, it's a blessing. It's a gift. That's why I get to do what I do and taste these amazing whiskies. Other times, it is also a curse. So just last week before I came out, I was driving and there was this horrible kind of like sulphury smell in my car. And I was like, what is that smell? So I was picking my mum up. We were going shopping. I was like, Mum, can you smell that smell? No, nothing. There's no smell there. Okay, that's fine. So I drop her off. I like empty the car. I'm like, I've got 2 boys. They're only 4 and 5. So you can imagine the car, I won't even go there. So I'm like emptying it. Like they must have dropped food in here. nope, nothing, car's clean. I took one of them to their little class, and then I phoned my husband and I was like, I cannot drive this car anymore. It is disgusting. So he's like, okay, bring the car home, we'll switch cars. I go home and he's like, Julieann, there is nothing in here. Your car is absolutely fine. I'm like, no, I am telling you, there is something dead in here. He's like, what? Like, where is this dead? So there's me underneath the car, like sniffing everything you can imagine. And I got to like the front wheel arch and I was like, it's somewhere up there. So he gets his phone, he's like pointing it through any tiny hole that he can find. And like he literally pans round and on his screen you can see it. And he goes, oh, there's Peter Rabbit. So he's like, oh, it's like, there's obviously a rabbit. So he was like, how the hell did you smell that? And I was like, I told you it stinks. I said, take the car apart. I am not driving it until you sort this. So he like takes the full car apart, and as he's taking like the front of it out, all of a sudden he's like, Jesus Christ, that smell. And I was like, that's what I've been driving with for like 2 days. I told you that was there. He's like, nobody could smell that except you. And it wasn't a rabbit, it was a dead squirrel. And it was like, it was rotten, it was disgusting. So there's times where having a gifted nose, as they say, is not a blessing. No. It's honestly a curse, because that smell was vile. So yeah, very, very sensitive to smell and very sensitive to sulphur. I hate it. Don't like it in my whiskey.
So I think
exactly that.
Exactly.
Do not question me.
You're like, no, her nose is professional. So I think your question actually lent itself to kind of our segue into the cask strength, because, you know, we talked about consistency with the core range, but also independence to bottle some, like, make your own mark on certain bottlings. And so this is the 2025 release. We also released, what was it, last year?
No, we skipped it last year.
2023 cask strength 12 as well. And so now we have the 2025. And one of the questions that I get asked the most is, oh, is it just the regular 12 year that hasn't been diluted down to proof? And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how it is not that, yes, and what makes it a little bit more unique.
So we've obviously just tasted 12 core. So that's first fill Oloroso, second fill Oloroso, a little bit of bourbon, a little bit of refill in there. And as Naomi rightly said, we did a 2022 12 cask strength, 2023. And then the plan was that we were going to do kind of biannual 12 cask strength. So we would do a 21 one year, then the next year 12 cask strength. It became so popular that there was enough demand, so we decided to bring it back. And we don't just take 12 and take it as cask strength and dilute it down. I hand select every single cask individually for 12-year-old. And like you say, it's about putting your mark on it and doing different things. There's only so much that you can kind of play tunes on when it comes to making whiskey. In your distillery, there's obviously more you can do with your fermentation times, with how you run your stills. You can change that character of the new make spirit. We don't do that because we want it consistent. But when it comes to your final product, cask types, maturation times, maturation environments, all of that has an impact. So basically what I've done with this year's 12 cask strength, this one is at 56.4% ABV. And this is predominantly second fill Oloroso and refill. So I really pulled back on that Oloroso cask. So I want to let the character of Bunnahabhain shine. Bunnahabhain creates the most beautiful new make spirit. The way that I describe it, and this is where it starts to get like kind of muddy waters, because you guys over here don't have the same foods that us normal folk back in the UK have. But I say, MD familiar with a digestive biscuit? No, anybody here that can translate what a digestive biscuit is? No, well, like a kind of like malty, see, next time I come, reminds me to bring digestive biscuits, because once you taste it, you will know what I am talking about. So it's this kind of like malty, slightly sweet biscuit, and you take that, you dip it in a cup of milk, and you get this beautiful, creamy, malty note. That's what Bunnahabhain is. Yeah. And yeah, I love the character of Bunnahabhain. That creamy maltiness coats your palate. And the reason that I selected these casks is because I want that character to shine. Bunnahabhain's not a one-trick pony. It doesn't always need to be Oloroso. Of course, it works beautifully in Oloroso. Our 12 or 18 or 25 in Oloroso are absolutely phenomenal. But it's also nice sometimes just to do something that's a little bit different.
So, as master blender, you are responsible for blending things, obviously, putting things into bottles, coming up with new releases and limited releases. But I think one of the other aspects of your job is selecting casks.
Yeah.
And going to Spain. And can you tell us a little bit about that process and how you decide what you're going to put in bottles? Because you're planning 6, 8, 12, 15, 25, 30, 40 years in advance for bottling. So,
Yeah,
things we'll never taste.
for sure.
Yeah.
So I think just to cover it, the term master distiller and the term master blender, they're sort of used interchangeably like all over the world. They're absolutely not the same thing. A master distiller looks after everything from the malt, so they'll purchase all their malted barley that comes into their distillery. They'll decide their mashing water temperatures, their fermentation times, their yeast variations, how quickly they run their stills. So they do all of that. They impact everything that makes their new make spirit. As soon as they produce that new make spirit that comes off the still, that's when it becomes my responsibility. As a blender, we do need to know distillation and blending, because if they produce a new make spirit that I know and I think, oh, that's got a little bit of butyric in there, that's got a little bit of sulfur, I can say, oh, we need to fix the cleaning in this area, or you need to pull back the speed that you're running your stills, there's not enough copper contact. So yeah, that's a master distiller does that. Master blender, as soon as it becomes new make spirit, becomes my responsibility. So I knows the new make spirit, make sure it's in character for that distillery, and then I purchase all of the casks to fix the master distiller's mistakes. So I purchase all of our casks for our core range, for our limited editions. I also have an experimental cask budget where I'll lay stuff down just to see how it turns out. Might be for future limited editions, you never know. Just things that I like to play about with. I plan all of our inventory. So as Naomi says, I'm looking at, okay, Bunnahabhain is making X volume this year. I need this amount for Suzer, for Bunna 12, for Bunna 18. So I know all the cask types that has to go into. Any excess, what am I doing with it? Is it going to blending? Are we doing reciprocal deals? Are we doing experimental casks? So yeah, you've got all of this planning for a minimum of 15 years ahead. So there's a lot that goes into it. And then, yeah, I guess like a day in the life of a master blender is very varied because of that. So there's times where you're in the lab, you're nosing cask samples, new make spirit. There's other times you're in the distillery working with the master distiller, just making sure that the process is right. There's times you're in the warehouse, and there's times you're here doing this and doing like master classes and presentations. So that's probably what I love most about my job, is that there's no 2 days that are the same.
Yeah. So speaking of casks and what we like to drink, does anybody like sherry, and does anybody drink sherry? I'm a sherry drinker.
Me.
I like sherry. So earlier today, we were discussing your favorite types of sherry. Can you tell us about that and a release that came out a couple years ago? Was it last year? 2 years ago?
Last year?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a huge sherry lover. So every year I'll go to Mhath and I will kind of like hand select our sherry barrels. We work with the kind of same supplier all the time. We purchase 2 different types of sherry casks. So we'll purchase your old kind of Solera vat style sherry casks. So ones that are between like kind of 30, 50 year old when we bring it in to fill with Bunnahabhain or whatever it may be. Because now not as many people are drinking sherry, those casks aren't as readily available. So we also use seasoned sherry casks where it's always European oak. What I love about it is I get to kind of determine like the toasting temperature. Mm-hmm. I'll then taste all these different sherries and decide which one I want to season my cask with. It's a really hard job. And yeah, we'll season them for kind of 18 to 24 months. When it comes to sherry, we use so much Oloroso for Bunnahabhain, and I do love it. Andrew Brown, who I've spoken about a lot tonight, he loves PX. Like, that is his favourite. Mm-hmm. So I always purchase a lot of PX casks. And whenever I can, Andrew comes to Mhath with me and buys PX casks, and we have the best time. For me, my all-time favourite sherry's got to be a canasta. I absolutely love a canasta cask. It works so well with Bunnahabhain. a couple of years ago, as Naomi said, we did a release for Fegio, and it was a Bunnahabhain Canasta matured. The inspiration behind that was quite a few years ago. We did a 1980 Bunnahabhain Canasta finish, so a 36-year-old finished in Canasta.
Jeez.
The liquid was absolutely phenomenal. It was beautiful. But let's be honest, who's got enough money to just go out and buy bottles of 36-year-old? I am all for whiskey being approachable. And just because you can't afford something that's a 36-year-old doesn't mean that you shouldn't try Bunnahabhain and Canasta. So that was the inspiration for our Fegio to last year.
Yeah. And this is a great time to actually start on our third whiskey, which is the Fegio release from this year. And you did 3 Fegio releases. Only one of them made it to the U.S., so it's the Mhath #1. The other 2?
Yeah, so
Gone.
the other 2, so we only... Going to Bunnahabhain, for anybody who has been, I think there's a couple of you that have been, it is an absolute pilgrimage. So you can either fly over from Glasgow, you take this tiny little propeller plane.
Can't wait.
You land at this beautiful airport right next to the water. You say a few prayers because you think you're going into the water, but you eventually stop this tiny little plane. You then hire a car on the island. There's about 3 hire cars on the island. They're all like stick shift, as you guys call it. They're manual. You actually need to use a clutch and use your arm. So that's a shit show for most folk to start with. You then take this car up this road, not the best road, but you get there. You then come to a sign and it says Bunnahabhain, like 4 miles that way, and you think, great, I'm just about there. That sign's a massive lie. I don't know who measured that. Somebody that's had one too many at Bunnahabhain measured that, because it's sure as shit not 4 miles. So you then take this turn and you go up this single track road. Of course, you guys, you don't even drive on the right side of the road. So you don't know what you're doing on this single track. You don't know which side you're meant to be on. You don't know where you're meant to pass. It's like, for me, it's a dream. It's fine. But you guys are obviously a bit backwards in comparison to us in the UK. So you're driving the wrong side of the road. You don't know what's going on. And it's an absolute pilgrimage to get there. One that is well worth going on, so please do visit. Hit me up if you're going. I'll make sure you're looked after. But yeah, this beautiful, beautiful distillery. So what we do every year is we have our distillery releases, and there's a couple that we have just for our brand home. So if you've made that terrifying, life-threatening journey to get to our distillery, we reward you with some absolutely beautiful expressions. But we do also do a market release every year. So this one is Mhath #1. Mhath means the journey, and believe it or not, it's all about that journey that I just described there. So everything came in by boat for so long. We've now got this little road. It was only resurfaced last year. I think John nearly lost his life twice last time he went to Bunnahabhain. So yeah, beautiful, unique distillery, and unique way to get there. This is a 15-year-old, which is a marriage of 2 different cask types. So this is Bunnahabhain that has been fully matured in Manzanilla casks, married with Bunnahabhain that has finished in Amarone casks. As I've said quite a few times, Bunnahabhain's not a one-trick pony. Bunnahabhain doesn't always need to be Oloroso. We have that beautiful coastal sea salt influence. She's trying to steal my thunder by opening a 30-year-old as I'm talking about Mhath.
So sorry.
So, yeah, Bunnahabhain's not a one-trick pony. It lends itself so well to lots of different cask types. With us being a coastal distillery, it goes hand in hand with Manzanilla. So those beautiful chamomile notes, the salty influence that you get from Manzanilla, with that bold, sweet, rich character of Amarone. Absolutely beautiful together. This one is at 55.9. So again, that higher ABV. And what I would say about this, like, if you want to add a few drops of water and open it up a little bit, feel free. There's no judgment here. I mean, I might talk behind your back once you've left. But no, like, honestly, drink it. Fegio, yeah, sorry. Fegio is this massive whiskey and music festival that happens on Islay every single year. So each distillery gets their own, well, each distillery used to get their own day, but now that there's so many popping up all over the island, there's a few of them that need to share a day. Us at Bunnahabhain, we don't share. We've got like only child syndrome, so we don't do that. But yeah, it's a day where every distillery, they have like folk music, they have like ceilidh bands, like people drink whiskey, they dance, everyone's merry. We do lots of unique warehouse experiences, we do tastings. There's so much going on, and we release really limited edition bottlings for this.
I think it's such a unique blend because Manzanilla and Amarone, that is not something that most people would think of putting together as a really cool, unique item. So how did you actually come up with those two specific things to pair?
Pretty much because when you say Scotch whiskey and you say master blender, everyone thinks of these like old white guys with like grey hair and a grey beard. And I did shave this morning, so that's not me. No, but like jokes aside, I obviously was very young when I got promoted. I'm very well aware of that. And I want to come into Scotch whiskey with a kind of like fresh perspective and do things that are different. So I'm all about kind of challenging the norm and doing things that are a bit different. And there's honestly been several times where I'll say to my boss, oh, I'm going to mix this with this. And he's a bit like, I don't think that goes, but he's like, you do you know what you're doing. That's why you're in this job. And thankfully, touch wood, they've all worked out well so far. So yeah, I might get sacked when I get back to Glasgow, but you never know. So yeah, what I want to do is bring these unique flavours together to get people talking. So like Naomi's just said, oh, I would never think to put Manzanilla and Amarones together. Why would you do that? Why not? It's to do something very different and get people talking. For me, whiskey is all about events like this where you sit with friends, you taste whiskey, you talk about it, you make memories. And like this, you'll probably go away and you'll say, oh, we tasted something really unique and it was Manzanilla mixed with Amarone. And that's what I want. Like, that's got to be my legacy. So if I get hit by one of your big yellow school buses tomorrow, I want you guys to remember me as somebody who has sort of broken down barriers, pushed the boundaries and done something that little bit more different and unique.
I like that a lot. So we are at the halfway point for all of our whiskeys. So I like to call this adult swim time. Everybody pick up your water bottle and drink from it, please. We are going to do this safely. And also, this is the part that I think our legal team would love. If you need a safe ride home, please let us know. I hope most of you Ubered here. But at the end of this, if you need any assistance getting home, just holler at us. But please take a drink of water. We're all going to do adult swim real fast. Oh, well, so we'll come back to that one at the very end. Yeah, I do have a plan for this one. Yes. So, I messed up. I was only supposed to bring you 9 whiskeys, and we accidentally brought you 10. So sorry. So at the end of this, we'll figure this out. I'm sure we'll make do, right? I think we're going to switch over to 18. This is probably one of my favorite whiskeys.
Can't say that. That's like picking between your children.
I know. It's so hard. Or like, for me, it's picking my favorite dog. Like,
yeah,
you know what
exactly
I mean? I'm like, not yet on the kiddos, but this one, I don't know. Like, I do have personal favorites. Like, that cask strength 12 really gets me and special place in my heart. What's up? Oh, do we need to take a 5-minute break?
No, we need to know which one is it.
Oh, so the 18 is going to be Bunnahabhain number, 12, Fagiel. It's the Bunnahabhain number 4. So, middle row on the left. Yes. Oh, it's hazy? Okay, real fast. We're going to talk about something really cool because we have hazy whiskey.
Okay.
Yeah. So, those are fine. That's actually part of the whiskey.
Did you add water to this?
As a non-chill filter, this has to do with chill filtering.
Yep.
Let's have that conversation.
So
we love it, yeah.
We don't chill filter our whiskey. That means that we keep all the fatty acids and esters in there. as whiskey starts to cool down, it starts to get that little bit hazy. That's where the fatty acids and the esters start to fall out of solution. You heat it up, they start to go back into solution, and it will become crystal clear again. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with a whiskey that starts to look hazy. It's just all those flavour compounds, those fatty acids, those esters that are in there.
And I think we are going to take a quick 5 minutes, just so that if anybody needs to get up, stretch your legs, grab more food, or run to the restroom. Is that all right with, yeah? So like I mentioned, the whiskey that or the glassware that you used for Bunna 12, please save that one. We're going to reuse that specific glass later on for this one because we don't have enough glassware.
Absolutely.
Oops, we accidentally brought you more whiskey than we promised. I'm so sorry. We'll send her home right away. But I think we can move on to 18.
We've done 18, we're on 25.
No. We're on 18. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be the 4th Bunnahabhain. So Bunnahabhain number 4 is the 18. I won't say that it's my favorite again because apparently I can't do that. But it is one that I cherish a lot.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to let you tell us about it.
Yeah, so Bunnahabhain 18 is quintessentially Bunnahabhain. This is fully matured on the island, so you get much more of that island character coming through. Like our core, 46.3, non-chill filtered, natural colour, and this is 100% first fill Oloroso. It is very rich, very smooth. You get so much of the dried fruits, the nuts. For me, there's almost like chocolate-covered hazelnuts in there. If this was Glasgow, I would ask you to leave for talking when I'm talking. No, I'm joking. Do
it.
So yeah, you get a lot of that nuttiness coming through. You get that beautiful spice as well. So with it being 18 years old, you get more of that wood spice coming through. So you start to get the cloves, the cinnamon, all of that really builds, and it comes through at the back. But that saltiness is absolutely amplified. So you get that beautiful saltiness right at the back of your palate, and that's exactly where you can feel it.
That you're describing, it's literally right.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know if everybody's the same, but when you eat like a really, really mature cheddar, and that way it like draws your palate together, that to me is what this one does. Like, it's an explosion of this beautiful salty but sweetness, and you feel it right at the back of your palate here, and it just lingers forever. And it Bunnahabhain 18, yeah, yes, no,
it's extremely
enough
special
as it is.
Wow.
No, I mean, it's not like a special edition.
No, this is part of our core range.
This is a standard.
Was it marked with the chocolate?
Every day
Nope.
available. They're all special. When they're made with love, they're all special.
One of them is special.
That's what I was saying when she was like, this is one of my favorites. I was like, no, that's like picking between your kids. We absolutely cannot do that. But like you say, everyone does have a favorite child, let's be honest.
No one, I mean, you have one that you're going to count on. like when your kids, I'm like, I always know which one of my dogs is going to cuddle with me a little bit more. I'm like, no, so there's always maybe a favorite, but not. But I love the 18 so much. It is it's near and dear to me. But it's first fill Oloroso 100%.
Yes.
Very cool.
Same wood, all
Yep.
American or all European?
European. Yep.
Yeah,
So when
for the
I
cigar.
pick sherry casks, they do give us the option if we want American oak or European oak. I always select European. For sherry, it's nicer because it gives you that kind of little bit of spice. American oak is much more soft, much more of the kind of vanilla and stuff coming through. I like that kind of spicy fieriness that comes through in the European oak.
Yeah. And then, should we move on to 25?
Yes.
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Bunnahabhain number 5.
Bunnahabhain number 5 is our 25-year-old. So again, not to go over what I've said 100 times, but natural colour, non-chill filtered. You may see natural variation in this one. Again, this one is 100% Oloroso. When we say 100% Oloroso, Oloroso sherry, is it the accent?
might be the accent. Oloroso is a variety of sherry. So just like Pedro Jimenez or Canasta. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
So
yeah.
Oloroso is a kind of rich, dark sherry. So when you're talking about sherry, you're going for your really light ones, like your Manzanitas, your Finos. You start to get heavier, and then like Amontillado kind of in there. Then you start to get heavier. You get your Olorosos, and then on from that is Pedro Jimenez. So Pedro Jimenez is very like syrupy, sweet. Really coats the palate. A lot of is it raisins or sultanas you guys don't have here?
Oh, we have raisins.
Right, so you don't have sultanas, so like golden raisins that you guys would say.
we have golden raisins.
Yeah, but we call it sultanas.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
So when I say sultanas, John looks at me like I have two heads. So yeah, you get those really like stewed figs that come through. Oloroso is slightly lighter than that, so it's still a very dark red coloured sherry. Still quite syrupy, but you get a lot more spice in there. You get dried fruit, you get nuts. And yeah, beautiful sherry. To be certified Oloroso, it needs to come from the Sherry Triangle in Spain, so it has to come from Jerez. And yeah, beautiful, beautiful sherry. And that's...
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
And how do you spell Jerez? It's Jeres. It looks like Jerez.
Jerez.
Jerez, though. Yeah. With exactly looking at it, as I guess Mexico Spanish speakers, we would look at it as like Jerez, but Spanish.
Jerez. Yeah. So yeah, wonderful casks. Like if you're not familiar with sherry, please try an Oloroso, because you will now understand how those flavours of the Oloroso sherry translate to our wonderful Bunnahabhain. Definitely one worth trying.
Yeah,
Not.
And
sorry, the accent does not help.
And I'm going to ask you: do you want to do the 30-year-old now, or do you want to wait till the very end? Is like
We need to do 30 before we go on
before we go to smoke.
Peaks.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
So 25, we're still kind of talking about this.
Yeah, keep talking about that one.
This really does remind me of being back home.
Oh.
You start your first few drams, everyone is very quiet and polite. You get like 4 or 5 drams deep.
Actually,
People
I have
think
a
they're
pour.
smart and they think they
I
can
have a
talk
pour.
over you. Yeah, that's the polite US way of saying it. In Glasgow, we would just say "shut the fuck up," but we'll tone that down.
That's my partner in crime, y'all. I love it. Y'all should have been there for the conversation over wine earlier, where we discussed our favorite curse words.
Oh well,
because
we'll not use
we
them
had
tonight.
choice ones. We will not, especially because we're being recorded. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we can try and, I know as the whiskey goes down, you guys get a little bit more talkative, but we're nearly at the end. You do not need to listen to me for much longer. So please just bear with me for another 20 minutes or something like that.
And before I'm about to start pouring the 30-year-old, what I'm going to ask y'all to do is to take your Bunnahabhain number 1 glass, maybe rinse it out and pour it into another glass that you aren't using any longer. Just give it a little bit of a swirl with water, please, because I'm going to come around and pour the goods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bunnahabhain 30 is part of our core as well. So the kind of number states the obvious. It's Bunnahabhain that has been fully matured for 30 years. You will notice that the colour on this one is that little bit lighter. It does have that sherry influence. I know that sounds ridiculous, but what I love is as we get to the higher age, the packaging in this is beautiful. So it is lovely for gifting. It makes a statement on a shelf. It really is absolutely beautiful.
Which one? Okay, cool.
So as much as we talk about 30-year-olds being Oloroso, it is actually refill Oloroso. And that is really important. So to clarify, first fill Oloroso is a sherry cask that has held sherry for all of its life, freshly emptied. We usually keep between 5 and 7 litres in it for transport so that it doesn't dry out. And then we fill it with whiskey. A refill
Oh, hey guys,
Oloroso
I'm gonna ask-
is one that's probably held whiskey twice before we then classify it as a refill. What I love, yep, as the drams go down, we start spilling glasses and stuff as well. It's all going on here. What I love about refill Oloroso is that you do still get that beautiful influence of the sherry. So you still get dried nuts, you still get the fruit, the spice, everything in there, but it doesn't overpower the character of Bunnahabhain. Bunnahabhain does have a robust enough character that it stands up to full maturation and first fill Oloroso. You're seeing that with our 25-year-old. But just as a point of kind of differentiation, we use refill Oloroso casks in this. Still get a beautiful colour, but it is lighter than 25. And the flavour is more Bunnahabhain character led than it is that Oloroso dried fruit and nuts. Yes.
For you personally, what's the most that you go for a refill cast? Like how many times?
So very good question. I go first fill, second fill, refill. So I don't even use third fill. For me personally, it does depend because obviously when you say something's first fill, if it's aged something like Struder, for example, that it's only been in there like 5 years, then that becomes a second fill. If you use that again for Struder, that's only a 10-year-old cask. You've then got other casks that maybe hold Bunnahabhain 25. When that becomes a second fill, it's 25 years old. So I do track all of them by age and by, I basically look at the colour of the liquid when it comes out of the cask, and that's how I dictate if it's tired or not. But for me, second fill, you get people who track it all the way down to sixth fill. At sixth fill, that cask is doing absolutely nothing. I'm very fortunate that our owners, Remgrow, that look after us, they're very wealthy individuals. They have a lot of money. And when I go to them with my cask budget, they just nod and agree. So I adore them for it. But yeah, they don't question our cask budget. They give me the money that I need to make these quality liquids. They know that the casks make our liquids what they are. So I only track it to second fill. And then after that, I just call it a refill and buy fresh wood. So yeah, our 30-year-old, this one, again, we've kept this at our core strength. So actually keeping 30-year-old at 46.3 is pretty difficult because, like I say, angels share that 2% every year, those drunk angels of Scotland that take our whiskey, the ABV drops quite a lot. So we typically fill, or did fill 30 years ago at 63.5. If we're losing kind of 0.5% a year, that's 15% over those 30 years. You take that from your 63, you take into account humidity, warehouse conditions, cask type, like other losses that you get. Actually, keeping 30-year-old at 46.3 can be quite tricky. Sometimes 30-year-old sits underneath that, more around about that 44%.
Can I ask you to tell us about how many bottles we produce a year of this one compared to, like, are we keeping it pretty low?
Very low.
Yeah.
So when we talk about something like Bunnahabhain 12, we will produce that kind of throughout the year. So maybe every month, every second month, something like that. It's higher volume. It's not high volume in terms of like a Glenlivet or something like that. It is still low volume. When it comes to 30-year-old, we only produce it once per year. And it's something like 600 litres, if that, for 30-year-old. So tiny, tiny volume. We produce it once per year, normally around about May time. And that volume is there to last us the full year. So yeah, tiny, tiny volumes.
So 600 liters. That's 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 barrels?
Yeah.
If that.
Yep. Tiny, tiny volumes.
Wow.
It's a very small volume. Does anybody buy things like that are 25 and 30? And what do you usually expect to pay for something that's 25? Like what? It's about to be a trap. Hello, I'm Naomi, Texas State Sales Manager. Let's talk numbers real fast. No, but really, it's so difficult to find. It is. It's a setup. It's a ruse. So usually for a 25 to 30-year-old, you're looking at paying over $1,000. For a 30, usually you're going to pay over $2,000. So I believe our 25 is what, around 600, John? 700?
30 is $9.99.
Yeah, it's under 1,000.
150 bottles for
Wild.
USA.
Which is crazy considering that it's... Yeah, exactly. And I mean, wait, in 2016 you said?
In 2016, I paid $1,000 for a bottle of Balvenie 30 through an employee discount.
Well, 10 years later, prices have changed. Prices have definitely increased for those other guys. They increased for us as well, like everything. It's inflation. It all goes up. But the fact that we still have a 30-year-old that's $9.99, crazy. And you can buy it at Specs. Actually, no. Matt from Specs was supposed to be here tonight. What we'll do is at the end... I know. At the end, we'll allow y'all to pre-order some of these because, like the Banyuls and these things, because they are so rare. We'll do a little sign up. So if you're interested in these, and we'll get that to Matt so he knows that you're coming. But this 30-year-old, something special.
Yeah.
Oh,
basically wood spice. So 30 years old, you imagine that interaction of the oak. You get more of that woodiness in there, and that naturally does dry your palate. A little bit of the tannins in there. So you think like a really dry red wine, for example, sherry can be the same. You get that kind of dry tannin influence.
Yeah.
Do you have a question?
It was close to here, so there is more spice.
For sure.
But my question is, okay, the whole lineup, there was a theme that went through all of the 12 and cask strength, 18 to 25. Still, there was a similar, it got richer and it got weaker. But this one, it seems like a total departure. It just tastes, the smell is really good. The taste is very good. But the smell is like, what? Like, it's not even the same thing. What is making it so good? Just 5 more years can't be it.
It's just the lack of the Oloroso. So because you've not got that first fill Oloroso, you're not getting that sort of syrupy jam and fig. You get it now? Refill Oloroso. So you do get a bit of the Oloroso, but it's not the front leading note that you get for sure. It's the, yeah. Yes. So 2% a year, so 60%. So our barrel's only got 40% left in it.
Yeah.
So it's an expensive whiskey to make.
This may be a
Yeah.
question.
Not at all.
First time doing this. So this was cast in 1995. So
Yes.
Before your time. And it's
Yes.
30 or, no. Something 30 or, no, wait. 30 or 40 years from now, you may not get to taste it.
No, I know. That's the wonderful world of
Who
whiskey.
made this before, they don't get it. So
Yeah.
you may never know how it comes out then.
So that's where we have people like Andrew Brown who have been with us for 37 years now. But yeah, that's the world of whiskey. I'll be laying things down now that will be released like way after I retire. And that's the world of whiskey. You leave a legacy behind you.
Doesn't it drive you nuts not to know what it tastes like?
I haven't tried it. The bottle's empty now.
Crazy.
I haven't. Do you mind?
Yeah.
But you know along the way because you're taking samples.
Yeah. We sample along the way.
Oh.
Exactly that.
So go ahead.
No, you go.
So one thing that I've always thought about as far as aging whiskey goes, I think about it as like a graph. And the more time you add, the further away you get from that distillery characteristic, which is like that new make character, that 12-year-old, that light floral fruitiness. And then as time goes, it's more and more of that wood. And every distillery, and I think of like every distillery and every way that we age, it's going to have like different lines on that graph. And it's going to be different distillery to distillery, types of cask to types of cask. But that always like explains a little bit more of those tannic notes for me. And also because of what we're aging it in.
Absolutely.
Whether or not it's like American white oak or that European red oak, depending on what we're doing, that's where we're getting that tannic, that dryness, that raisiness. So I always think about, the 18 is always a little bit more nutty for me. And then we get into this, and it's like definitely like those tea notes that we get. That's just how I think of it. But they're delicious, yeah. Nothing stupid, yeah, for sure. But we're learning.
So watch it.
So here in the U.S. and States, when we build our rick houses, they get struck by lightning, they catch on fire, and lose everything. They have to run off ditches. I'm sure you guys have similar issues over there. If there's a whiskey fire, does that affect the neighboring storage facility, the rick houses?
Yeah, so basically,
The flavor of the whiskey. Like, if there's a fire, does that change the profile?
Oh, so we don't get fires in Scotland. Like it's not dry enough for us ever to get a fire. No, like literally never happens. So
Why would you
genuinely
jinx us?
our ground is not dry enough for us to have a fire. It's so wet, it's so damp, fire would never spread. But yeah, just for decoration, honestly. You've got to keep somebody in a job. But no, to your point, where we do look at things like that. So all of our whiskies are aged across. So as much as we keep as much Bunnahabhain as we can on the island for insurance purposes, we have some at Deanston, we have some at East Kilbride. We spread it out so that if there was ever to be a fire and it takes out a warehouse, we've not lost all of our inventory and all of our stocks, because that's like where our money is. That's where our company, its value is. So yeah, we look after our inventory by separating it, but still looking after the character. But yeah, thankfully in Scotland. I know. It's like, what? Remember the Queen was never allowed to fly with yeah, the Prince.
So on the 30 year, do y'all use the same house every time?
Yes. So yeah, just before we move away from our 30 onto our peated whiskies, just to kind of celebrate Bunnahabhain, this wonderful 30-year-old that you've got, I just want to take a minute to do a toast to everybody that is here tonight, to thank you for coming. We are not finished. We're going on to peat, but this is a really special expression. We don't share this with many people very often. John was only allowed it because I was here tonight. I'm taking out his wages. So yeah, thank you so much for coming, for listening to this. We do have 2 more of our peated expressions to go, but do you know what we say in Scotland when we say cheers?
Slàinte.
Slàinte. Okay, enough of the sentimental, carry on, let's keep going. So we are going to move over to our peated whiskey. So staying at Bunnahabhain Distillery. Does anybody know what this says? What did you say? Very good. So,
What is it?
Torshgaga. So we had a peated whiskey. It was called, it just had this first word here, and that first word is Toichik. When it's on its own, it means smoky, and it's pronounced as Toichik. When you add words to the end of this one means smoky too. It changes the way that you actually pronounce the first word. So it's not Toichik aga, it's Torshgaga. So you start to shorten the word. So your pronunciation was absolutely phenomenal.
Like a contraction almost. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you sneeze and it just comes out, like Torshgaga. So yeah, like I say, after a few drams, I'm sure you're all fluent. So Torshgaga means smoky too. This is a non-age statement. Average age of the whiskey in here, very, very varied. We've got some 7, we've got 8, we've got a little bit of 14-year-old in there, and beautifully balanced. It's not 100% peated. There is peated whiskey in there and unpeated whiskey. The peated whiskey that we make at Bunnahabhain is not your typical Islay whiskey, so it's not that hard-hitting smoke. We bring our malt in roughly at 45 parts per million. As it distills over, we only take about a third of that over. So it's about 15 parts per million in your glass. Because this is blended with unpeated Bunnahabhain as well, it's not as heavy hitting on the peat. When we talk about peat, we talk about kind of like barbecue and bonfire. We're more barbecue than we are bonfire. So it's that lighter barbecue notes that come through. Of course, with this being a coastal distillery, you still get that beautiful sea spray coming through. And yeah, very, very balanced. It's Oloroso and bourbon that's in here. So you still get the beautiful sweetness, the vanilla coming through with a little bit of that dried fruit intertwined with that beautiful peaty smoke.
Who likes the peated scotches? Yeah, I'm a big fan. I like all the scotches. Who's not quite a fan of the smoky things yet? Who's not a big fan of smoky things yet?
For me, it depends. You just have to have like a ribeye first.
Sure, or 7 other scotches.
Yes. In the summertime, when it's 100 degrees here, that's
You know what? First thing this morning, we had a meeting with our distributor, and it did come up, do people, is it less common to drink smoky scotches in the summer? This conversation is one that we had today. And I think it all depends if you appreciate scotches. I mean, I know sometimes it doesn't make sense to drink some smoky things, but I actually throw this one into cocktails all the time, especially summer cocktails. I like to throw a smoky scotch into rum cocktails, anything that calls for an aged rum. Yes, I put it in a banana daiquiri, like a classic banana daiquiri served up. My favorite, because it has all that American oak notes, and I'm just like, oh, coconut or banana. I'm thinking about that American oak. So if you're thinking that, hey, maybe we don't do peated in the summer, wrong. Absolutely, one, it's great on its own or on ice, but also throw it in a cocktail. Make a fun cocktail and have somebody else fall in love with scotch without knowing that they're falling in love with scotch. That's one of my favorite things.
With a cigar.
Or a cigar.
Oh, so peated whiskey at a younger age. When you make peated whiskey, it's most intense as it comes off the still. So that's where you get most of those phenolic compounds. When you put it into cask, that cask softens the peat. So the longer that it ages, the less peat that you get in it. So we actually experimented with Tobermory. We have a Tobermory 42 and we have a Ledaig 42, and they pretty much taste the same, but because by the time Ledaig's got to 42 years old, it's honestly lost so much of that peat. So young peated whiskies are phenomenal young. They're beautiful. That's where they're more punchy. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks that kind of 10 years old is a sweet spot for peated whiskey. It's where you get that beautiful balance of the peat smoke with the maturity and the cask influence. So yeah, most peated whiskies, 10 will be their kind of flagship. And talking about a kind of 10-year-old flagship, we're going to move on to Ledaig. So our core Ledaig is a Ledaig 10-year-old. That is not what you're tasting tonight. You're tasting one of our limited editions, which is Ledaig Sinclair series. So we've not done any Tobermory tonight, which means I actually need to tell you a little bit about the distillery.
Show the bottle. Want me to show the bottle?
Oh, whatever. So Tobermory Distillery was established in 1798 by our founder, John Sinclair. John Sinclair wanted to open a distillery on this plot of land for a very, very long time. He applied for planning permission. It was rejected. There was breweries there. There was a cheese factory there. You name it, it was there until eventually he was allowed to open a Tobermory Distillery. Tobermory Distillery was established in 1798. So it's actually the 9th oldest working distillery in Scotland. So much kind of history and heritage there. Our distillery is absolutely tiny. It's probably not even as big as this room that we're in just now. The way that I describe Tobermory Distillery is I'm Scottish. We like bang for our buck. We're quite tight. It is the shittest distillery tour you could ever do. When you're standing at the start, you can literally see the end. That's not exactly value for money, is it? But given that it's one of my distilleries, it's obviously one of the best tours that you could ever do. Please go and visit us at Bunnahabhain. No, but jokes aside, it is absolutely tiny. Aye. So it's a shit tour, but we make good whiskey. No, we do. We make three phenomenal spirits there. So we make our unpeated Tobermory, we make our peated Ledaig, and we also make a Tobermory gin there. So as I said, John Sinclair made this distillery in this tiny little space. He bought all of this distillation equipment and made it fit into a space that it didn't fit. So our stills are really, really unique. We've got this beautiful unique S-shaped line arm at the top. And what that does is it creates a sort of heavier, oilier spirit. That worked really, really well with peated whiskies. So our Ledaig from the second it comes off the still is phenomenal. Tobermory, it just needs that extra time in cask. The way I talk about it is you cannot rush perfection. I mean, look at poor John over here. God knows what age he is and still looks like shit. So Tobermory whiskey just needs, love you, just needs a bit of time to mature and come into its own. Mm-hmm. We did originally have Tobermory 10 as our core, and we've increased that to a 12-year-old. So Tobermory is all about small volume, high age statement. Ledaig, on the other hand, that's kind of the predominant whiskey that we make there. It works amazing from the second it comes off the still. So non-age statement Ledaig is absolutely where this shines. So this is a non-age statement Ledaig. It's roughly about 5 years in bourbon and then 2 years in, depends on where you're from. If you're Spanish, you'll say Rioja. If you're American, you'll say Rioja. So these beautiful red wine Tempranillo grape casks, you can see that on the colour. It has this beautiful red hue that comes through in it. And you get that wonderful influence of the red wine. Red wine and Ledaig with that peat go hand in hand. So you get this beautiful smoky influence with these deep, dark red berries. Yeah, absolutely beautiful together. Again, with this being coastal, you do still get that sort of earthy salinity in there. I get it a little bit like salty seaweed coming through, but with that softness and that beautiful fruity note coming through from these red wine casks as well. Mm-hmm. Because it's part of our core range, 46.3, like everything that we do. And yeah, this beautiful natural reddy colour that comes through in this one.
Going off of what you were saying, the core range kind of changing from the 10 to the 12. Do you feel like overall that in your profession that 12 is the new 10 and like 15 is the new 12 and so on?
I honestly just think it depends on the whiskey that you've got. So if we could easily drop Bunnahabhain 12 to Bunnahabhain 10 if we wanted to, because Bunnahabhain is just, it's beautiful. So as a non-age statement, as an age statement, it works really, really well. Tobermory does just need that extra time. And honestly, it depends on the new make spirit that you make at your distillery. And you just need to know where that sweet spot is and where it shines. But for peated whiskey, definitely 10 is that sweet spot. But for unpeated whiskey, I do still think like 12 is your kind of flagship.
So,
One, thank you so much for keeping all of your expressions naturally presented and integrity.
Thank you.
So much for that. The Sinclair series, I've had a couple of these Rioja.
Rioja.
Yeah. And I love the berry and mix of the peat. As I understand it, they're going to change the maturation. Is there something new coming, or is it already out?
No. So very, very good question. Sinclair series, named after our founder, John Sinclair, was meant to be a series of different cask finishes. So much to your point, every year we would do something different. Sinclair series was so popular that it became a series of one. So we have now kept this as core. We are not changing it. We are keeping it in our red Rioja wine casks. And yeah, we might do something different eventually, but right now there is absolutely no plans for that. We love this how it is. It gets great feedback. So no plans as of yet.
I love this one so much. It has that island character. It has a little bit of meatiness. We were talking about it earlier, smoky bacon.
Yes.
It has some fruitiness.
It's like breakfast.
It just shines. I really like this.
It has contrast.
For sure.
So this is the ninth oldest
working distillery in
operating
Scotland.
distillery. Yes. So this is a historic distillery right here. And Ledaig meant, what does it mean? And
Safe
why?
haven.
Safe haven.
Safe haven, yeah. So Ledaig, where our distillery was originally Ledaig Distillery, now Tobermory. Mm-hmm. But Ledaig means safe haven. So we, again, we're an island, we're a coastal distillery. And back in the days of the wars, we used to get soldiers that would come onto shore. They would seek refuge, and Ledaig was that safe haven where they could kind of seek shelter during tougher times. And that's basically where the name Ledaig comes from.
Yeah. And another component of Tobermory and Ledaig is that you only produce them part of the year. You only produce this one part of the year, then this one part of the year. Will you tell us about the breakdown and also the water source for each? Because I think that's pretty interesting about how we choose when we produce each one.
Yeah, so believe it or not, in Scotland, sometimes we run out of water. If we get a warm summer, we only need like 2 days of warm summer for us to run out of water. So we get our water from the Mishnish Lochs. Don't expect you to pronounce that. Toshgaga and Bunnahabhain's hard enough. But this beautiful body of water that is piped down into our distillery when it's really warm on the island. Bearing in mind we are an island, remember that. So that water is essentially coming from the rainfall, which we do get a lot of. So as we say in Scotland, like today's rain is tomorrow's whiskey, because that's exactly what we're using it for. We do run out of water there. So for that reason, we try and produce Tobermory in the winter where it's a bit colder. There's an abundance of water. We get more cooling water to run our stills the way that we want. Whereas for Ledaig, where it's a bit more robust, we can make that in the summer and it's not impacted quite as much by not having that cooling water there. We do produce about 75% of the year Ledaig, and then only about 25% now we do Tobermory.
Is that the cooling water for worm tubs or for shell and tube?
For our condensers.
Condensers?
Yeah. So for our
We're
condensers.
shell and tube, right?
Yep. For our condensers, we use quite a lot of water. And yeah, that's why we need such a kind of big supply. So although we have a gin still at Tobermory as well, which I spoke about, we can't run our gin still the same time we're making whiskey. Two completely separate buildings. They've got their own sources, obviously, but there's not enough water to run a gin still and a whiskey still at the same time. So yeah, it's one or the other because water's not in abundance, even though we get rain daily in Scotland.
So what percentage of the time are you making Tobermory, and what percentage?
Only about 25% of the time for Tobermory.
Oh, wait, so say that again?
25.
25% for Tobermory?
Yep, 75 for Ledaig. Yep.
So does that mean we're producing more Ledaig?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're producing more Ledaig because it's so good at a young age. So look at Sinclair Series non-age statement. It works so well. With Tobermory, we're really trying to go small volumes, high age, more kind of like artisanal and boutique style liquids. Whereas Ledaig, kind of higher volumes, lower age statement because it works beautifully at that age.
Oh.
Our stills, so our stills, for our stills, so you have this huge big copper vessel, and then at the top of your still, you have what's called either a lye pipe or a line arm. That basically is where the vapour boils up and it goes through this pipe, and that's when it goes into your condenser and it condenses from being a vapour to being a spirit, essentially. Most distilleries, that pipe is on a decline, so as that vapour boils up, it goes over this tube and declines and condenses naturally as you would. At Deanston, they're on an incline. So what happens is this vapour, it boils up. It tries to go over this pipe. It can't quite get there, so it comes all the way back down. It has to boil up again. And it takes several times for that vapour to be basically hot enough to go up and over this inclining lye pipe. At Tobermory, it's this really unique S shape. So you imagine this huge big pipe, it's meant to go this way, it can't fit, so you do this, and it becomes this really strange, snaky shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually good.
Pretty much like that, yeah.
So, also, we know what that is. So
Is the festival one available in the States? The 2025 festival?
Yeah, the Tourist Ma one available here.
yes. Oh, so I'll talk about that one.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we got here in June,
We'll
July.
talk about that. So one thing before we leave, while y'all are taking pictures and getting bottles signed with Julieann, I'm going to stand on my phone, and whoever wants the link to basically fill out a quick form, it's a Google form, to basically tell Specs and Matt what you want. You can select all the things that you want, and it's basically a pre-order form. It's almost like a commitment to purchase these things. But, I mean, it is. We just aren't taking your credit card information, but don't be that guy or that girl. Don't be that guy. But we are getting a little bit more Fagiel into Texas. We're getting, 11 cases? It's not a lot. And we're going to have to split that with a few other stores, a few other customers, maybe a bar or two that wants it. So it's really going to be a very limited amount that's going to come to Specs. So you'll be contacted when it gets in, but it is being moved back into Texas for the Fagiel. And I love the Fagiels. They're fun to collect.
Did you have a question?
Take my money. Oh. Yeah.
For the line arm that you're talking about, is that why Deanston has such a light floral peachy character? Because you get that infused reflux, so that you don't get those sulfur polyphenols.
Absolutely.
Over.
So
is there anything else in that process, or is it just the line arm?
definitely the line arm. So again, you can kind of attribute that to our clear wort or fermentation times, but it's definitely that reflux. So we have our stills have like that kind of bell-shaped stills. We've got that extra like kind of neck on them, so you're getting so much copper contact, and then that inclining line arm, it just constantly boils up and over. Can't quite get there, so it comes back down. So much reflux, so much copper contact, so it gives you that beautiful light spirit that is quintessentially Deanston.
So,
any other questions?
So I do, because I know, I'm so sorry. Guys, I'm going to tee this up, because I think that Tobermory and Ledaig have some pretty cool expressions. There's like a triple wood.
Yes.
What else do we do that's off the beaten path? And also I see something, what is this? Go ahead.
The 23 Oloroso cast.
23. So Tobermory 23.
I know that one.
Let's talk about that. So Tobermory, like I say, old boutique, old age, small volumes. Tobermory 23 is the older sibling of Tobermory 15-year-old. We used to have a core which was 15, so 13 years in bourbon, 2 years in Oloroso casks. Tobermory has had quite a checkered past as a distillery, so it's been opened, it's been closed. Our inventory's a bit like this. We couldn't sustain 15-year-old as a core product, so we discontinued it. But what we did do was keep a parcel of inventory maturing in those same Oloroso casks, and we decided to then launch them as the Hebridean series. The Hebridean series was a series of 5. So we started at 23. We did 23, 24, 25, 26, and we've just finished on 27. And I actually believe you've got some 27-year-old here.
In Texas?
Yep.
We do, actually. Yeah. I don't remember. Do we remember the price on the 27 Tober? Maury? That's
Wholesale price to a retail.
That's silly. That's a silly number for a 27-year-old Scotch whiskey. I'll put it on the form if you're interested. I'll add it to the form. How about
So
that?
you'll see from this bottle here, it's essentially a double maturation. So this is pretty much spent as much time in Oloroso as it has in bourbon. You get that massive sherry influence in this, so the Oloroso really coming through. And what I love about this series is if you are fortunate enough to try the 23 against even like the 27, this series was all about this parcel of stock, and we just let it age an extra year every time. So the 24 was basically 23, left that 1 year longer. And in your head, you think, I know how this is going to go. It's going to get richer, darker, heavier every single year. That's not what it did. That just shows you that whiskey is on its own journey and it takes its own path. And yeah, so 23 was much more Oloroso influence, more nutty. The more sweet actually than 24. 24 was much lighter, fresher, had this beautiful floral note that I didn't expect at all. The ABVs go up and down as well. They're all completely different. And yeah, 5 expressions. Everyone will have a favourite and 5 very, very unique, different drams.
Well, the way you described this one, I'm happy I got it.
It's beautiful.
That's a good
So
one.
yeah, there's 3 cases of 27-year-old in Katie.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm going to add it to the list. I'm putting the list together right now. I'm not just texting someone. I'm not making Instagram stories over here. I'm actually putting together this form for us. So, are there any more questions? Because I think we're going to have to wrap in a few, right? We're tired. Y'all, we have to get an Uber to the airport tomorrow at 6 a.m. And what time did you get up in New York today?
I had to get up
20?
at 2 to FaceTime my kids because of the time difference. And then, yeah, after like 3, I went back to sleep. And then 4 o'clock, we were up for a 5 o'clock Uber. So, yeah, we
Wild.
don't get a minute here. Like, I work much harder in the States than I do in Scotland.
We don't get you very often. So
It's great fun. So, no, all I can say is, honestly, thank you so much for having us. I hope you have found this useful, fun, educational.
And I'm going to be honest, y'all, we almost didn't come to Houston, but I talked to Todd. Okay, so, we only have her for 3 days. And I was like, do we just stick to one city? Do we stick to 2 cities? Do we do all 3 cities? But really what it was is that I know that y'all's group is so passionate and like collectors. You know what you're tasting. You want to taste more. You're so involved in this community. I made sure that this was our first stop so that we could do this with y'all. So thank you, Todd, for building this lovely group for us. I think what we'll do next